Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 973, December the 1st, 2019, Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, remember today is when you need to get your vote in for Dumbass of the Week. Go ahead and get your comments in, preferably by 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the comments section of this video for your pick for Dumbass of the Week. Alrighty, let's go ahead. I'm going to get to some of the headlines because I didn't really get much of that yesterday because of I spent some time on the background of John Durham, and so we kind of missed some headlines. I'm going to pick up some of that from yesterday and also today, and then a little bit on Lee Smith's book, and then a very interesting story on PJ Media that I want to talk about at the end of the video. I think you'll find it very interesting. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this story broke 2 days ago. It looks like Hunter Biden is headed to court in the child support lawsuit with this stripper, this DC stripper named London Roberts. I don't think that was her stage name, but her real name is London Roberts. So apparently he went and had this affair while he was in the middle of a divorce with his wife. He goes to this strip club in DC, has this affair, I assume a one-night stand. He probably paid. I'm assuming he paid this woman. London Roberts, who's a stripper at the strip club there. So that's his baby mama. That's the mother of his child. So now it looks like there was an overture made by this woman, Miss London, to Hunter Biden for X amount of dollars to, I guess, for child support, maybe some alimony. Well, not alimony, they were never married, but certainly child support, and also some other fees and things like that. Apparently, Biden rejected that, and so now the case is going to court. So Biden's lawyers have now filed a motion for a protective order. And they've filed this protective order in an Arkansas court where they say they want to spare their client public embarrassment, annoyance, undue prejudice, and oppression. The 28-year-old former stripper that is suing Biden is looking for $11,000 in back support and legal fees just for starters. Now, Roberts has rejected Biden's original offer, so it's now in court to determine Biden's ability to pay. Biden says that he can't file a financial affidavit at this time because he still has his divorce from his most recent wife is pending, and there's financial issues at stake there. He doesn't know how that's going to turn out, so he doesn't know what his final income will be after she soaks him, which she probably should and probably will. And he says that also that he is unemployed and has no monthly income since May of 2019. He also says that he has significant debts. Well, now we know why Quid Pro Quo is running. Quid Pro Quo Joe is running because it's the only way that his son can actually become somewhat gainfully employed. He has to be on the board of some, Eastern European corrupt country. Apparently that's the only way the guy can make a living. And of course we know that he has a healthy appetite for strippers, prostitutes, and things like that. Now, what I find particularly humorous in this statement from his attorney, where he said he wants to spare his client, Hunter Biden, public embarrassment, that's kind of funny, along with annoyance, undue prejudice, and oppression. It's kind of funny considering his own client, Hunter Biden, is the guy who went and got a rental car, left 3 different IDs. I don't know if they're all Hunter Biden IDs or IDs from other people. That never was disclosed. But 3 different driver's licenses or IDs were found in the vehicle, along with a crack pipe of a rental car that he turned in and left his wallet, his license, and his crack pipe in there. He got booted out of the Navy for, drugs. He's got a reputation as spending a lot of money. Likes to spend a lot of time in strip clubs, likes to pay a lot of prostitutes, take a lot of drugs. The guy's a mess, and you're worried about protecting his reputation. You're worried about him being embarrassed. His dad is Quid Pro Quo Joe. He had an affair. Well, I shouldn't say an affair, but he struck up a relationship with his recently deceased brother's wife, and while having that relationship with her, was having fun with prostitutes and stuff. I mean, this is insanity. I mean, this guy's a bad apple. But as we can see, when Biden is not serving in some official government position where he has power, Hunter Biden cannot find any work. He can only find work when Daddy-O is a government official. Huh. I wonder what that tells you. My oh my, what a mess. And it's going to get worse, because I don't know that the demo commies can back out of these impeachment hearings. I think they've gone too far. They might try to pull this thing where they try to do just a censor. Maybe they can do a censure, but I don't know. They've gone awfully far to try to pull back to a censure. I don't think that would satisfy their base, and of course that's who's driving this. The 4 women of the apocalypse would have a fit, and so would the people who are trying to collect money at the DNC. Their only thing that really seems to be able to help them raise money is impeachment. Only when they talk about impeachment does the money come flowing in. So there's a tremendous amount of pressure. As I said before, there is no good way out of this for Madame Botox, the Penguin, and the Bug-Eyed Fool. They're kind of in this up to their eyeballs now. And to pull back on it now would make them look extremely weak, and could even force Pelosi to have to resign, because it would just be a complete disaster. Once you make this move, and once you go into that water, man, I mean, you've got to swim. You can't back out like that. You can't go this far and back out. So I think that they're probably going to have to push forward with impeachment. And if they do, and they have the vote, and the vote passes, it goes to the Senate. And once that goes to the Senate where the trial is held, they're going to call Hunter Biden. They're going to call Joe Biden. They're going to request documents. They're going to call the fake whistleblower. They're going to call, probably, I wouldn't be surprised, they call Brennan, certainly Chalupa, all these people, and it's going to really, really unravel there and become a complete disaster. So they've got themselves in a hell of a fix. I'm not sure how they're going to get out of it, but if you're Hunter Biden, you got to be pretty damn nervous right now. And certainly Quid Pro Quo Joe, if he was smart enough, if he had enough sense, he would be terrified. But I don't think he's smart enough to be terrified at this point. Okay, so there we go. That's the deal with Hunter Biden. It looks like he's going to have to, at some point, I mean, he is going to have to produce some sort of financial information to the court so they can make a decision on, what he has to pay. As far as being able to keep this out of the courts, or be able to keep these documents sealed or private or whatever, I don't know. That's everyone asks for that. I mean, everyone asks for every attorney asks for that, right? Especially in these high-profile suits, but it rarely happens. A lot of high-profile people try to have their divorce filings kept secret and their financials kept secret, but it rarely ever happens. There's got to be a really, really extraordinary situation, and I don't think this is going to qualify. And there's certainly going to be a lot of people watching to see, but again, I mean, everyone, it's pretty clear at this point how Hunter Biden operates. Based on his father's position in government, he is given these seats on boards and various other opportunities that you would never get otherwise, things he's not qualified for. He gets huge amounts of money, and he just blows it on hookers and drugs. So there is no way positively to spin this for Hunter Biden or Daddy-O. It's just gonna be bad all the way around. It's not going to get any better. And as I've said time and time again to Quid Pro Quo Joe, get out. Get out. Maybe if you get out, it'll all go away. Or maybe not. Well, the Newsweek reporter, this Jessica Kwong, who wrote that stupid article in Newsweek that Trump on Thanksgiving was playing golf, tweeting, and more. And of course, it turned out she was very wrong. Trump was actually in Afghanistan seeing the troops on Thanksgiving Day. That reporter has been fired by Newsweek, which, it shouldn't surprise us. I mean, Newsweek, if you remember correctly, was actually bought for $1. They were sold for $1 and bought for $1 by one of these big audio tech firms. And so that's about what Newsweek is worth. They're worth about $1. So that shouldn't surprise anybody. Gateway Pundit is reporting that after Attorney General Barr and John Durham visited Italy, that Mr. Potato Head, John Brennan's security clearance was brought into question again, which suggests that they found something in their journey there to Italy, which has called them to question whether or not John Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, should be holding his clearance. That's a very interesting report, and there's no question in my mind that when you're talking about these things that happen in Italy and Europe and the UK, those are more on the intelligence side of things. Because we had this story in the New York Times back on the 28th, I think, 27th, 28th, which was saying that Horowitz is going to find that Mifsud was not working as an FBI informant. Well, I never really thought that Mifsud was working as an FBI informant. His links are not so much to the FBI, he has links to the State Department. But as far as on the intelligence side of things, Mifsud is linked to Western intelligence. Now that may be U.S. or Italian or British or what have you, or may all of the above. But to say that Mifsud is not FBI, that wouldn't surprise me. But I don't think that Horowitz interviewed Mifsud. So I don't know what you can take from that, or even if the New York Times reporting is even accurate. We won't know until we see the IG report. But that doesn't surprise me. But I would certainly think that when you're over in Italy trying to find out what's going on with Mifsud, it wouldn't surprise me to find out that Mr. Potato Head pops up in the conversation. There's also a story in Gateway Pundit that is quite funny to me. And basically they were asking the question in this story, quote, is Hillary Clinton planting individuals in Democrat presidential candidates' campaigns to commit sabotage? Is Hillary Clinton planting individuals in Democrat presidential candidates' campaigns to commit sabotage? Well, that's quite funny because, as you know, I've been talking about this for, a couple of months now, so, because, I learned months ago that a lot of people who are in the Elizabeth Warren campaign, working for Warren, are formerly worked for the Right Reverend Clinton. And I was suggesting that maybe that's why Warren has taken the, crazy decision to go so hard left and to try to be the female version of Bernie, knowing good and well that that's a position you're unelectable. As a communist, in a general election. Maybe it'll do you okay in the primary, but it's not going to work in the general. And you're not going to get the backing of the party. You're not going to get the backing of the donors. You're not going to get the backing of the people in power in the Democratic Party who really control a lot of these things. So I always wondered what in the world Warren was doing. And then, of course, I found out that a lot of the people on her campaign were formerly with the Clinton campaign. And so I've been joking for a couple months now that the Right Reverend Clinton has got her people in there forcing Warren to go so far left that she's not electable, to take her out. Because the Right Reverend Clinton, in case you haven't noticed, she always clears the field before she enters the race because she cannot compete fairly in any election and win, even if it's for dog catcher. Now, this story here is focusing on the recent breakdown in the campaign of Legs in the Air Harris, Kamala Legs in the Air Harris. We had the story come out yesterday that her head operations manager for her campaign, Kelly Mellenbacher, who wrote this op-ed talking about she's never seen campaign staff treated so poorly in her life, and she's worked on multiple campaigns. So she quits the Legs in the Air Harris campaign, writes this op-ed, and then she goes over and obviously modifies her social media, because if you look at her LinkedIn doesn't say anything about her working for the Kamala Harris campaign. It only references the fact that she has been working for, get this, The Rotten Reverend Clintons Onward Together. That's what's on her LinkedIn page. She works for Onward Together. That's the Rotten Reverend Clintons organization. So it is very likely that not only did the Rotten Reverend Clinton place people into the Warren campaign to drive her completely hard left off the rails, she probably has people also in Kamala Harris's campaign, and probably they're the ones giving her all the bad advice. So the Rotten Reverend Clinton may be working a little bit of everybody's campaign. I wouldn't doubt but what she's got people embedded in the quid pro quo Joe campaign. Maybe that would explain why it's such a miserable failure. And this is right down the Rotten Reverend Clinton's alley. In fact, I'm sure if you look up above over the campaign, over Harris or Warren or any of these people, you look up in the sky, you will likely see a demonic buzzard circling the event. That would, of course, be the Rotten Reverend Clinton looking down on her handiwork. And as I said, I think that the Rotten Reverend Clinton's strategy is a brokered convention strategy. That way she doesn't have to actually campaign. She doesn't actually have to compete in any primaries. She doesn't have to actually compete in any debates. She just has to sit around and wait for a brokered convention and then wait for her name to be advanced forward on the ballot. By which point, she had her people embedded into all these other campaigns. They will flip and put her on the ballot. And she comes away the Democratic National Committee nominee. Never underestimate the Rotten Reverend Clinton's evilness or her ambition for power. She'll do anything. Now, another funny thing about Kamala Harris is when she first came out, of course, as you all will remember, I'm sure, when before even the first debate started, and she announced that she was throwing her hat in the race, she was the odds-on favorite at the beginning. All these people across all the media, including in the right-wing media, oh, Kamala Harris, she's probably the best one. She's from California, she's a female, she's not white, she's something other than white. What she is other than white, I don't know. She's something other than white. The California primary has been moved up. She should be able to raise a lot of money. She's a senator, blah, 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 blah. All these things making Kamala Harris out to look like a real strong candidate. And if you remember, if you're watching my videos at the time, I was flabbergasted. I'm like, are you kidding me? They actually think that she's a strong candidate? Kamala Harris is dumber than a football bat. I've been watching this woman for years. I've seen her interviewing people when she's in these committees and hearings. And, I mean, she's an idiot. She did not get where she's at in life because of her intelligence or her skills or anything else. We know how she got to where she's at. It's because she had an affair with a very powerful mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown. And Willie Brown has written multiple articles now informing us that essentially she has no chance and that she's basically a dummy. I mean, he basically says she's a dummy. It's not just me, but you can watch her. She's not presidential material at all. Now, Willie Brown suggests that she may have other skills, other things that she may be very good at, but being president of the United States would not be one of them. So really, I think this is just a classic case of someone not properly directing their real talents to where they would have the most benefit. Now, if I were advising Kamala Legs in the Air Harris, I would suggest that maybe she look into getting into the symphony orchestra. Maybe she could play first chair flute or piccolo, or some other type of instrument, maybe a brass instrument. Maybe she's got really good lungs and she could do like trombone or something. These would be things that seem to be more consistent with her skill set, because I don't think that I don't think the meat whistle is a instrument they have in the symphony, so she would probably have to learn a little flute or piccolo or clarinet or something like that, where she could actually use some of the skills that we can ascertain from Willie Brown's comments that she possesses. Yeah. Okay. That's my thoughts on that. Look above you. If you see a demonic buzzard circling overhead, it's likely the Rotten Reverend Clinton, and you're probably in trouble. I think she probably has planted people in all those campaigns to derail them. She's way ahead of the game. And of course, we have this new book that's just come out by Glenn Simpson and his partner there, Peter Frisch, who are recently on with Sleepy Eye Chuck Todd. And now that the book is out, we can see clearly that this guy Simpson is a pathological liar. I mean, let's remember that Frisch refused to even testify to Congress, basically took the fifth. Simpson was answering questions at some point. He stopped and just started pleading the fifth because he realized he trapped himself in lies. Every time this guy opens his mouth, he lies. He clearly lied to Congress about when he met and began working with Bruce Orr. And here in this book, it appears that now he is claiming in the book that Christopher Steele hired him. That's right. That's what he's claiming in the book, that Christopher Steele hired Simpson. That's completely 180 degrees backwards from everything we've known and even been told even by Simpson himself up to this point. And Steele, who testified in a court case in a deposition. So he says in the book that he was working with Steele when Manafort was brought in. That would have been March of 2016, which is another lie. If he was communicating with Steele at about the time that Manafort entered the campaign, that would have been March of 2016. But Simpson has stated that he didn't begin actually working with Steele until late April, early May of 2016. And Steele says it was June. These guys can't get their story straight. And you can't trust either of them. Pathological liars. Previously, Simpson had said that Fusion was hired in April of 2016 and that Steele was brought in after that, in June. Steele says he was hired by Perkins Coie. In Steele's deposition, he says he was hired by the law firm representing the Right Reverend Clinton, Perkins Coie, to gather evidence that could be used to challenge the election results in the event that the Right Reverend Clinton lost. That's what he said in his deposition. But that Simpson in his book lays out a completely different set of circumstances. Somebody is lying, and probably both of them. Now, Simpson has nothing to worry about as far as the IG is concerned. The IG can only, recommend, policy changes or things and such like that. He really can't indict anybody. He can't even really talk to anybody or interview anybody or subpoena anybody outside the government. So Simpson doesn't have to worry about that. But as far as Durham's investigation is concerned, he should be very concerned about that because he clearly has lied under oath in his testimony to Congress. I don't know how many times. I've lost track now. It was up to 6 at one point. I don't know how many lies it is now, but it's just one lie after another. So he's lied many times to Congress in his deposition before he started pleading the fifth and shutting up. And his book apparently is turning a lot of things upside down, which contradict previous statements, although he'll just say he wasn't under oath when he made those statements. But Glenn Simpson, I do believe, is going to be, ultimately, when Durham finishes his investigation, I do believe that Glenn Simpson is going to be charged with some crimes. What those crimes will be, I'm not sure. But he's definitely not. He thinks because he doesn't work for the government that he's free and clear. That's not true. If Durham is looking at a conspiracy, if you're part of the conspiracy, whether you work for the government or private company or whatever, it doesn't matter. You were part of the conspiracy. So I'm sure he's lawyered up and ready to go, and he better be, because I do believe that ultimately Glenn Simpson is going to be indicted. And here's another diabolical stunt by the Penguin, Jerry Nadler. He's going to have his first impeachment hearing on Wednesday. Why would he choose Wednesday? Well, probably because that's exactly the day that Trump is going to be over in Europe at the NATO summit. Isn't it strange how every time Trump is overseas dealing with an important meeting with people overseas, that they have something that pops up, an impeachment hearing, some accusation, some whistleblower, some this, some that. There's always something that comes up that's an attack on Trump on a day that he is overseas in some sort of important conference or meeting or what have you. And this just shows you how diabolical and disastrous the demo commies are. This is the type of people we're dealing with. These people actually, I'm telling you, these people do not like America. I can tell you that right now. They do not like this country. And the reason they don't like it is because they realize it is populated largely with a lot of people who like Trump and think like him. And that's what they hate. They hate us. Trump is just like a representative of us. They hate us. Trump is the target because all of us support him, but they hate us. You can take that to the bank. And this is just another despicable move. And just to show what an idiot he is, in the announcement of his hearings on Wednesday, he extended an invitation to Trump to come and testify or observe the hearings, but yet he won't allow him to have his lawyers present, knowing good and well that Trump is going to be over at this NATO summit. That just shows what an idiot and a diabolical scumbag the Penguin is. We also have the president of Poland, the former president of Poland, coming out and saying that Hunter Biden got his job because of his family name. Well, that's news to me. We also have a new YouGov poll showing that Trump, that Republicans, 53% of Republicans see Trump as being a better president than Abraham Lincoln. That's Republicans, by the way. Wow. So before I get to a couple things in Lee Smith's book, the two most recent chapters I've read, Strobe Talbot's name has come up again, having something to do with these hearings. And I just want to remind you, as we come up this week on these hearings and you hear the name Strobe Talbot, let's not forget Strobe Talbot. He's probably involved in all this as well, because his organization, or that he heads up, the Brookings Institution, this far left-wing group, is also kind of like a revolving door with the Lawfare Group. And the Lawfare Group is of course, the ones running the paper side of the coup, the legal side of the coup. And they are really one and the same. They're joined at the hip. The Hoover Institution people are a revolving door with the Brookings Institution and Lawfare Group. They're one and the same, essentially. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind that it was Strobe Talbot who gave Steele a dossier, and we assume that's the Shearer dossier, because Cody Shearer, Hillary's henchman, is the what's his relationship? Brother-in-law. He is the brother-in-law of Cody Shearer. Strobe Talbot is. Talbot, of course, is a longtime Clinton ally. He was formerly in the Bill Clinton State Department. He was also in the Obama State Department, worked under Kerry. He met Slick Willie back in the 1960s at Oxford, when they were both in Oxford to avoid the Vietnam War, the draft. And of course, we know that Talbot had dinner with Rinat Akhmetshin after the Trump Tower meeting, which Akhmetshin attended with Vetselnitskaya. So, yeah, we'll keep our eyes peeled this week for what comes out about Talbot and what association he may have had in this whistleblower thing or Ukraine thing or whatever it may be. Just keep in mind what his background is. There's also a very interesting article I urge you all to go read. It's at PJ Media, and the author of the piece is Leo Goldstein, Goldstein. You can probably easily find the article on Google. Just Google PJ Media, Leo Goldstein, and type in Russiagate or Spygate or whatever, and you'll see a couple articles there, and you'll see the one to click on. It's about the one where he asserts a theory that the DNC may have purposely leaked the emails or what have you, so that they could claim that the documents were stolen by Russians and use that to frame Trump. It's a very complex article to read, because it gets into a lot of technical stuff, because it gets into the hacking and all the stuff involved in the hacking. It gets a little technical, but it's a brilliant piece. I don't know if it's true, but it's certainly worth a read. So you might want to Google that up yourself and go take a look at that. But essentially, Goldstein says, amongst other things, this is one thing he's talking about in the article, that the DNC and the Right Reverend Clinton allowed the DNC to be hacked to get documents that would be mildly damaging to the Right Reverend Clinton and the DNC, so that they could claim that the documents were stolen by Russians and then given to WikiLeaks and then fed and then they wanted to feed the stolen docs to the Trump campaign. So essentially, what he's saying here is that, and this is the short story. You have to read the whole thing to understand how he makes this case. But essentially, that so they know that they've been compromised. We believe it was Seth Rich. They know that he's accessed and transferred some files, and so they know that these are likely to come out. So what they do is they stage a hack using CrowdStrike, and then they have a plot which they're going to allow these to be released. And then once they're released, they're going to blame the Russians and then associate Trump with that. And then they're going to plant these documents on Trump campaign people. Now, that would make sense, because what were they offering Papadopoulos? Obviously, they were making overture for damaging materials on Hillary Clinton. When they came to Caputo, they straight up offered him, this man Greenberg, Henry Greenberg, straight up offered Caputo Hillary Clinton emails. And when he declined, he went to Roger Stone. And Roger Stone said, we don't need to pay for dirt on Hillary Clinton, there's plenty. So they turned him down, but he won like $1 million or something, $2 million. So there was efforts to try to peddle damaging information, emails, to Trump campaign people. And we do suspect that it was Seth Rich who hacked into the DNC, and they knew that, and they discovered it. And so that would be a very good plot on their part, to say, hey, we know this stuff's coming out. Why don't we go ahead and put some stuff out first, blame the Russians, tie it to Trump, and then we'll take the stuff that we claimed was hacked, and we'll print it out, and we'll pass it on to Trump people, and then we'll have the FBI investigate and bust them. That makes a lot of sense. So you may want to go over and take a look at this article on PJ Media, Leo Goldstein, and you may want to read that for yourself. It's a little complex, gets into some technical stuff, but mostly it's fairly easily understood, and I think you might enjoy taking a look at that. It's worth a look. Now, just a couple things from the last two chapters of Lee Smith's book that I want to get to. Page 233. So, chapter 17 is called The Decoy. And I just want to read the first paragraph of this chapter. I just like it. I like it's kind of a summarized statement, which he does in almost all the chapters. The beginning of the chapter is usually what he's about to tell you through the rest of the chapter. He gives you the basic outline of what it's going to be. So, the very first paragraph, chapter 17, The Decoy, Smith writes, without the big titles and the national security bureaucracy's legalistic self-defense mechanisms, the story was pretty straightforward. The Clintons hired a bunch of con men who got their dirty cop friends to frame Trump. The press and a corrupt prosecutor handled the cover-up. Man, oh man. That's putting it very simply, again, very accurately. And again, Lee Smith and I, the reason I've enjoyed following his work over the past year and a half or two covering his story is that he and I are really locked into this idea that the Right Reverend Clinton is the mastermind of all this and has a lot more of a role to play than what's been known at this point or reported. And we both follow that. Here's another thing that you need to know. Mifsud had appeared alongside U.S. foreign policy experts, including former Clinton administration Deputy Secretary of State Strobe Talbot. Strobe Talbot, who we just spoke about, knows Mifsud. Strobe Talbot knows Mifsud. How about that? Another connection to Mifsud and another connection, a Clinton connection to Mifsud. How about that? Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget Dumbass of the Week. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.